The story begins in a quiet classroom, sunlight spilling across polished desks, the hum of an overhead fan filling the silence between chalk strokes. The narrator, a 23-year-old university student, sits at the back, his gaze drawn not to the equations on the board, but to the woman who writes them. His teacher, Ms. Rivera, is 40 years old, an American Latina with long black hair that brushes her shoulders whenever she leans forward. She speaks with calm authority, her voice smooth, low, and effortlessly captivating. He doesn't mean to notice the details, the way her gold bracelet catches the light, the faint scent of jasmine that lingers after she walks by, or how she bites her lip when thinking through a problem. But he does, and every small moment pulls him deeper into an admiration he tries, unsuccessfully, to hide. Ms. Rivera has been his professor for only 3 weeks, yet she's already different from anyone he's met. She's intelligent, poised, and carries herself with a quiet confidence that commands attention without asking for it. There's something magnetic about her, something that feels unreachable, but impossibly close. The narrator's thoughts drift as she lectures. He studies her expressions, the gentle crease between her brows when she concentrates, the soft laugh lines that appear when a student says something clever. Every detail feels human, real, and deeply grounding. But beneath that admiration lies something more dangerous: curiosity. After class, most students rush out, but he lingers, pretending to take notes as she gathers her papers. Their first real conversation begins casually. She asks if he's understanding the material. He says yes, but admits he's more interested in how she teaches than what she teaches. It's a bold statement, half truth, half confession, and it catches her off guard. Ms. Rivera's eyes lift, studying him for a moment longer than appropriate. There's a flicker of something unreadable, not quite disapproval, not quite interest, before she clears her throat and replies with professional calm. Be careful what you find interesting. That line lingers. It's both a warning and a challenge, and the tone of her voice leaves him wondering if she meant more than she let on. As the day ends, he walks out into the fading sunlight, feeling the strange pull of something unspoken. He tells himself it's just admiration, that she's just his teacher, but deep down, he knows better. There's tension in the air now, invisible but alive, wrapping itself around every glance and word exchanged. That night, he can't stop replaying her voice, her subtle smile, and that last sentence. It isn't love. Not yet. It's the spark of something forbidden, something neither of them are ready to name, but both already feel. The line between respect and temptation has been drawn. The only question is who will cross it first. Days pass, but that charged moment, her warning, his bold remark, lingers like static in the air. Every class after that feels different. The distance between them is still there, but it's no longer just professional. It's something they both feel now, a quiet awareness that neither dares to acknowledge. The narrator begins to notice the subtleties, how Ms. Rivera avoids holding his gaze for too long, how her tone softens when she addresses him, how she pauses a second before answering his questions. She's careful, too careful, and that carefulness itself is revealing. One afternoon, after a long lecture, she stays behind to grade papers. He returns to the classroom under the pretense of retrieving a forgotten notebook. The room is empty except for her, sitting by the window, pen tapping rhythmically against the desk. The golden light of late afternoon spills across her face, catching the fine strands of her black hair and the faint smile lines near her lips. She looks up, slightly surprised. Forget something? He hesitates, holding the notebook in his hand, but not answering right away. Maybe. Or maybe I just wanted to see if you actually smile when no one's around. The words hang in the air, bold, unfiltered, and dangerous. For a moment, she doesn't reply. Her expression shifts. Not anger, not amusement, but something deeper. Something that recognizes the truth he's trying not to say. You're testing boundaries, she says quietly. That's not wise. He smiles slightly. You said to be careful what I find interesting. I'm trying to understand why you said that. Her eyes soften. For the first time, the authority in her posture slips just a little. Because you're too young to play with fire you don't understand. That sentence, soft, almost maternal in tone, carries more weight than it should. But it also cracks something open. For the first time, she's not his teacher. She's a woman, vulnerable, conflicted, and human. The silence stretches, filled with the hum of the outside world, distant voices, the whir of an air conditioner, the faint creak of her chair as she shifts. He finally speaks again, voice lower, steadier. Maybe I'm not playing. Maybe I just like the warmth. That draws a small, involuntary laugh from her. She shakes her head, gathering her papers. You really should go before I start to forget. I'm supposed to be the responsible one. But even as she says it, there's no firmness in her tone. It's half a plea, half a confession. He leaves, but as he reaches the door, he glances back. She's looking at him, just for a second, with that same unreadable expression. It's not approval, not rejection. It's the look of someone who's already tempted, but trying not to be. And as the door closes behind him, he knows the first crack in her wall has appeared. It's small, but real, and through it, something dangerous and beautiful is starting to breathe. After that afternoon, everything changes, not in obvious ways, but in the quiet, unspoken spaces between their words. The classroom feels smaller now, heavier with meaning. Every question he asks, every time their eyes meet, there's a pulse of something beneath the surface, something neither can name without breaking it. She tries to act the same, strict, composed, untouchable. But he starts noticing what she can't hide. The way her voice softens when she calls on him, the faint, almost imperceptible curve of her lips when he answers with confidence, the flicker of conflict in her eyes when he stays behind after class, just a little too long. One evening, a sudden rainstorm traps them inside after the last lecture. The campus empties quickly, leaving the two of them alone in the soft patter of rain against the windows. She sighs, closing her laptop. Guess we'll be here a while. He nods, pretending to check his phone. Not the worst place to be stuck. She gives him a look, half warning, half amusement. You always have something to say, don't you? Only when there's something worth saying, he replies. A small pause follows, not awkward but charged. She leans back slightly, her hair pulled into a loose bun with a few strands escaping to frame her face. There's something tender about the way she exhales, like she's trying to release a thought she knows she shouldn't have. I forget sometimes, she says softly, how easy it is to feel young again when someone keeps reminding you what it's like. He turns toward her, surprised by the honesty in her voice. Is that a bad thing? She meets his eyes, really meets them this time. It's dangerous. The room feels different now. The fluorescent lights buzz faintly, the rain tapping harder against the glass. Her words should have ended the conversation, but instead, they pull them closer. He takes a slow breath, choosing his next words carefully. Then maybe danger's what makes us pay attention. Her expression falters. For a heartbeat, she forgets to breathe. The air between them feels alive, like a single spark could set the whole room on fire. Finally, she stands, gathering her coat. You should go before the rain stops. I don't want this to blur any more lines. He rises too, but he doesn't move toward the door. Some lines were meant to blur. He murmurs. Her breath catches. She doesn't answer, not with words. Instead, she walks past him, close enough that the faint scent of her perfume lingers in the air. Warm, floral, and unmistakably her. At the door, she pauses. You're smart, she says quietly. But sometimes smart people make the most reckless choices. And then she's gone, leaving him alone with the echo of her words, and the unmistakable realization that the lesson isn't just his anymore. It's theirs. The line has already blurred. The next few days unfold in a haze of avoidance and silent tension. He notices her taking different routes to class, avoiding lingering after lectures, and keeping conversations brief and clinical. It's her attempt to reset, to put the walls back up. But walls built on denial are fragile, and every shared glance feels like a quiet crack forming in the foundation. Then one evening, fate intervenes again. A student presentation runs late, and by the time everyone clears out, only the two of them remain, the air thick with exhaustion and unspoken weight. She's sitting at her desk, massaging her temples, papers scattered everywhere. He hesitates at the door, torn between walking away and stepping into a moment that could change everything. "You look tired," he says gently. She glances up, surprised. "Occupational hazard," she replies with a half-smile that doesn't reach her eyes. He walks closer, slowly. "You don't have to carry everything alone, you know." Her shoulders tense. That's kind of what adulthood is, isn't it? He studies her face, the way the dim lamp light softens her features, how the faint circles beneath her eyes only make her look more real, more human. Or maybe it's what loneliness looks like when you pretend it's responsibility. That makes her pause. The words land heavier than he expected. She looks at him for a long moment, then lets out a quiet laugh, fragile, almost trembling. "You shouldn't talk like that," she says softly. "Not to me." "Why not?" "Because it makes me want to listen." The silence that follows is electric. She stands, brushing her fingers through her dark hair as if trying to reset herself, but her composure wavers. "You're crossing a line," she says, her voice low, uncertain. He steps closer until he's only a few feet away. "Then tell me to stop." Her breath hitches. Her hand grips the edge of the desk, but she doesn't say the words he expects. Instead, her eyes soften, tired, conflicted, searching. "You don't understand," she whispers. "People like you. You made people like me remember what it's like to feel alive. And that's dangerous." He smiles faintly. Then maybe danger isn't always something to avoid. The distance between them feels non-existent now. A few inches of air that hums with awareness. She finally turns away, staring out the window where the city lights blur against the night sky. "You're too young to understand consequences." "Maybe," he replies quietly. "Or maybe you've lived long enough to forget what it's like to want something without thinking about them." Her eyes close for a second, and he swears he sees the smallest tremor in her lips, a silent war between reason and desire. When she finally opens them again, her expression is softer, resigned. "This," she says, voice trembling, "can't happen." He nods, though neither of them moves. Then why does it already feel like it has? She doesn't answer. She just looks at him, caught between fear and longing. And in that suspended moment, the line she drew between them dissolves completely. The next morning, the world feels heavier, quieter, as if the air itself remembers what happened. He wakes up replaying every look, every pause, every heartbeat that filled the space between them the night before. They hadn't crossed the line physically, not yet, but emotionally, they were already standing on forbidden ground. In class, she's distant again. Her voice is measured, professional, but there's a tremor underneath, a slight hesitation when her eyes accidentally meet his. She calls on everyone except him. It's not punishment, it's protection. She's rebuilding her wall, brick by trembling brick, but each time he answers a question or laughs softly with someone else, that wall seems to crack again. After the lecture, she leaves quickly, clutching her books like a shield. But fate, once again, has other plans. It starts raining, sudden, sharp, and relentless. Students scatter, umbrellas opening like flowers. She pauses under the awning, clearly reluctant to step into the storm. He approaches, holding his jacket over his head, soaked from running across the courtyard. "Guess even the weather wants to make this harder," he says, smiling faintly. She exhales a quiet laugh. "You shouldn't be here. Then why aren't you walking away?" Her silence is the answer. The rain blurs the world around them, the sound of it like static, isolating them in their own small pocket of truth. When a cold gust sends a splash across her sleeve, he instinctively takes off his jacket and drapes it over her shoulders. Her hands freeze mid-motion. "Don't," she says softly, but she doesn't move to take it off. The warmth of the jacket lingers between them, the scent of rain and his cologne clinging to the fabric. She looks up, eyes searching his face. "You make everything too easy to feel, and you make everything too hard to forget," he replies, voice low, sincere. The moment stretches, rain tapping softly on the roof above them, thunder rumbling somewhere distant. He can see her struggling, torn between logic and longing. Then she steps back slightly, shaking her head as if trying to wake up from a dream. "This isn't fair," she murmurs. "You'll move on. You'll forget." He smiles gently. "That's the thing. I don't want to." Something inside her finally breaks. She takes a step forward, her fingers brushing the collar of the jacket he'd wrapped around her. The touch is small, hesitant, but it's enough to send a current through him. Her hand lingers there, trembling slightly, before she pulls away. "You should go," she whispers. He doesn't. Instead, he looks at her with quiet defiance. "Tell me to leave, and I will." She can't. Her lips part, but no sound comes out. Instead, she closes her eyes, fighting tears that don't fall. The weight of their silence is louder than the rain. When she finally looks at him again, her voice breaks in half strength, half surrender. "This can't happen again." He nods once, but the look in his eyes says what neither of them dares to admit. It already will. Days turn into weeks, but nothing feels normal anymore. The tension between them doesn't fade. It deepens, sharpens, like a secret only they can hear humming beneath every word. She tries to maintain distance, keeps conversations short and formal, yet her eyes betray her every time they meet his. It's as if her gaze has forgotten the rules her mind keeps writing. He notices everything. The way she lingers at the end of a sentence, the slight tremor in her hands when he's near, the deep breath she takes before addressing him, as if bracing herself. He doesn't push, but his quiet presence alone becomes her undoing. Each day, the line they promised not to cross grows thinner until it's barely visible. One afternoon, he stays late in the classroom, helping her organize papers. The air hums with unspoken things. She keeps her distance at first, pretending to focus, but the closeness between them is magnetic, impossible to ignore. He reaches for a stack of books at the same time she does. Their hands brush. It's brief, but it sends a ripple through both of them, a soft shock of warmth that lingers far too long. She pulls her hand back quickly, her breath catching. "You can't keep doing that," she whispers, not meeting his eyes. "Doing what?" His voice is low, almost a murmur. "Looking at me like that," she says, barely audible, "like I'm someone you're allowed to want." He swallows hard, taking a slow step closer. "Maybe I'm not, but it doesn't stop me." Her composure fractures, just a flicker, but enough to reveal the storm underneath. She turns away, pretending to fix a stack of papers, but her hands tremble. "You're making this impossible." "I think it already is," he replies softly. The words hang there, fragile, dangerous, real. She exhales shakily and leans against the desk, the strength she always carries finally slipping for a moment. The classroom is dim, afternoon light streaming through the blinds, painting soft lines across her face. She looks exhausted, conflicted, beautiful in a way that hurts to look at. "I've spent my life being careful," she says, voice trembling. "And then you came along, just walking in here with that look, that honesty. You don't hide how you feel. You don't pretend." He steps closer, close enough to see the faint shimmer in her eyes. "Maybe you shouldn't have to pretend either." Silence, the kind that feels like gravity pulling them closer. Her voice breaks when she finally answers. "If I cross this line, I lose everything." He nods slowly, understanding, but he doesn't move back. "Then why does it feel like you already have?" That's when it happens, a slip of instinct, a surrender of restraint. She turns, and their faces are suddenly too close, their breaths mingling. The tension that's been building for weeks collapses into a moment that feels infinite. Her hand rises, hesitates midair, then rests gently against his cheek. It's not a kiss, not yet, but it's everything that leads to one. Her touch trembles with everything unsaid, and his heart feels like it might break from the weight of it. Then, just as quickly, she pulls her hand away, her expression full of conflict and longing. "Go," she whispers, her voice barely holding together, "before I do something I can't take back." He leaves, but her touch stays with him, haunting, electric, unforgettable. And as the door closes behind him, She sinks into the chair, covering her face with her hands, knowing it's already too late. Days pass, but the world feels heavy. Neither of them can escape the echo of that almost touch. The warmth of her hand on his cheek, the quiet tremble in her breath before she told him to leave. It replays in his mind every night, in the silence between one heartbeat and the next. When he walks into her classroom now, the air feels different. He can sense the distance she's trying to create, the forced calm in her posture, the way her words are too careful, too chosen. She doesn't look at him the same way anymore, or maybe she does, but hides it better. Yet he knows her eyes too well now. He's learned how to read what she won't say aloud. One afternoon, he decides he can't leave things unfinished. Not like this. So, when the day ends and everyone else leaves, he stays behind again. She notices him lingering and sighs softly, not in annoyance, in resignation. "Didn't I tell you that we shouldn't do this?" she says, still sorting papers, trying to avoid his gaze. He takes a step closer. "You didn't say we couldn't talk." Her hand still. Slowly, she looks up, and the fatigue in her eyes tells him she's been carrying this weight too, pretending that what happened meant nothing. "I thought if I ignored it, it would go away," she says quietly. But it doesn't. There's a pause, one of those delicate silences where everything feels like it could shatter. He walks closer, his voice steady but soft. "It won't go away because it's real." Her lips part slightly, and she shakes her head. "It can't be real. Not here, not like this. You're too young. I'm supposed to know better." He smiles faintly. "You do know better. You just feel something you didn't expect to." Her composure falters. She laughs under her breath, not out of humor, but disbelief. "You make it sound so simple." "Maybe it is," he says. "Maybe it's only complicated because we keep fighting it." She stands there, motionless, the light from the window tracing soft gold along her hair. "Do you have any idea what this would cost me?" "Yes," he answers. "But you'd still have yourself. The part that feels alive again." That hits her. He can see it. The crack in her defenses, the way her chest rises as if she's trying not to cry. She takes a step toward him now, her voice trembling but firm. "You have no idea how dangerous this is for me." He meets her gaze. "Then let me be the one who takes the risk." The room falls silent again. Their eyes lock, holding too much emotion for words. Slowly, she reaches out, hesitant, conflicted, and her fingers graze his hand. It's the smallest touch, but it feels like a confession all its own. "I can't promise you anything," she whispers. "I can't even promise I'll be brave enough tomorrow." He nods, his thumb brushing gently against her fingers. "Then just promise me this moment." Her eyes glisten. "You shouldn't make me feel like this." He smiles softly. "But I already do." For a heartbeat, neither of them moves. The air between them feels alive, fragile, electric. Then she leans in, just enough for their foreheads to touch. It's quiet, intimate, the kind of closeness that says everything without breaking a single rule. And when she finally pulls back, her voice is steady again, but her eyes are full of surrender. "You should go," she says, the same words as before, but gentler now. "Before I stop asking you to." He leaves once more, but this time, her smile lingers, faint, real, and full of everything they've both been too afraid to admit. Outside, the evening sky glows in soft amber light, and he realizes something simple but certain. Whatever happens next, neither of them will ever be the same again.